Welcome everyone, we're back and I'm here visiting a classroom in Downey, California. Mr. Alshak's classroom. He's going to be our special guest today, so let's bring him on out. Woo! Let's go, Mr. Alshak.
Okay. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you.
We are just, we're here to teach you about the history of our nation. The basic essentials are this, pretty much. You can go way deeper, but this is what we're going to do today. So, we got a stack of papers here that, her assistant, Angelina, was kind enough to write for us. Thank you. So let's start with the first Americas, as we have it here. We're going to go in this order right here. The first Americas. Who were the first Americans? Nomadic Asians and Siberians. Which, where did they come from? They came from Asia to North America. When did they come? Well, about 15,000 to 400,000 years ago. We don't really know how, it's just an estimate between there. How did they get here? That's the big fact. They immigrated to North America from Asia using a land bridge, also known as Beringia. Some people say this land bridge may have been made out of ice, since Alaska is very cold, and that's where they migrated from, since Alaska is very close to Asia. But, yeah, called Beringia land bridge, that's how they got here. And we're going to go on to Europe arrives. I'll have Molly do this one for us.
Europe arrives, which was Vikings, Spanish, English, and French. They all came to Europe. They all came from Europe. They were looking for gold, spices, and things to trade and make money with, and also to spread Christianity. Europe arrives to America to mostly trade, though, to make all their money, to have a place to live. They come from 1000 AD to 1608, a very long time, somewhere in there. They come to America, they love it here, and they stay. So let's move on to the 13 colonies.
13 colonies are actually really interesting. 13 colonies actually came from England, I'm sorry. What? Well, they began to think of themselves as American, not English. From when did they come? From 1607 to 1783. Where? Well, they settled from the Atlantic Ocean to the Appalachian Mountains, pretty much on the eastern coast, around that area. Why? Well, the 13 colonies just felt like they needed independence from England. They just felt as themselves as, like, American. They could do what they want. They're tired of being pushed around. So they migrated here to the USA for their free rights. Here we go. And we'll be moving on to the Revolutionary War.
The Revolutionary War was England versus the 13 colonies, which they left England because they didn't feel that they were a part of them anymore. It was 1775 to 1781. The War of Independence for the 13 colonies because they wanted to be independent. The 13 colonies and the Atlantic Ocean is where it took place. It was one of the biggest upsets in history, but the 13 colonies defeated the superior power of England. And USA was born from there.
We're now going to move on to the Declaration of Independence. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Alright.
Just keep going.
Let's keep going. Alright. Sorry, our cameraman had a little trip back there. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence was Thomas Jefferson, among others, but he is the main one. From when? Well, it was written in the summer of 1776. What? Well, it was the 13 colonies pretty much officially saying goodbye to England. And that's what the Declaration of Independence is. Well, they proposed it. Well, why? The primary reason was to tell England why the 13 colonies needed to break apart. It was kind of like a breakup, if you could say, but yeah, that's what they were trying to do. So now we're going to go to the Constitution.
The Constitution was written by the 55 delegates. Well-dressed, they were very rich men, white. They all wanted to write this to have rights. It was the outline for USA's federal government. It was ratified in 1788. It was written in Virginia, and it had 8 parts. We're going to move on to Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights. Well, who was two-thirds Congress proposed the Bill of Rights, and 3/4 of several states ratified it, which is 75%. What? Well, it was the natural rights, the first 10 amendments, pretty much, that this is what the Bill of Rights. Where? Congress, New York, then 3/4, 75%, or 9 out of 13, several states had to ratify it. When? was proposed by Congress in 1789, ratified by 3/4 of several states in 1791. So, well, these were all 10 of the amendments, not just one. Why? Well, it just protects our basic rights and freedoms and our civil rights. Now we're going to move on to slavery abolition movement.
Slaves and reformers wanting immediate end to slavery, which is what the slavery abolition movement was. They wanted it immediately ended. They didn't want slavery anymore. It was very bad. It was bad for our country. Everything. It was a big problem. The early 1800s, all of the northern states had abolished slavery. The reformers and slaves wanted independence for all slaves, men and women, all of them, children, anything. They wanted to have independence in the USA, like everyone else does.
Now we're going to move on to the Trail of Tears. Stay with us, kids. This might get a little boring, but it's good to know. Good to know. The Trail of Tears. Who? 15,000 Cherokee and the U.S. government. From where? North Carolina and Georgia to Indian Territory, which is present-day Oklahoma for all of you guys that don't know, and is west of the Mississippi River. When? From 1830. Well, it was in 1838. It wasn't a big time span, actually. What? Well, the Cherokee needed to be removed, according to Andrew Jackson. Why? Land was wanted for farming, minerals, gold, and this is a perfect example of manifest destiny, which is thus anything moving west, that's pretty much manifest destiny.
The road to the Civil War was the North and South. The Compromise of 1850, John Brown, raids, Harper's Ferry, Bleeding Kansas, Fugitive Slave Act, all of this leading up to the Civil War, that is the road to the Civil War. It was 1820 to 1870. It was all the slave states. It was South trying to gain independence. They were trying to gain independence from the North. They wanted to be their own country. And that's what caused the Civil War, which we're going to talk about right now.
The Civil War itself. Some people say most devastating war. There's a lot of stuff about this war. Who? Well, North versus South, as most of us know. What? The end of slavery. Well, they fought for the end of slavery, economics, states' rights. Where? Mostly in the U.S., mostly in the south of the U.S. and the Atlantic Ocean. From when? 1861 to 1865. 4 years, 5 years, however you want to put it. Winner was the North won. It was the most devastating battle, according to, well, most opinions say it was the most devastating battle. Over 700,000 died during the war. It's crazy. And here is our last subject.
The Reconstruction, which is after the Civil War. It was the South. We're bringing the South back to the Union. Since the North won, they're bringing them back to our country. They're making us a nation again. It was 1865 to 1877. It was to bring the Union back together and give freedom to all people, to give their rights back. And that's all we have time for today. But I'd like to
add one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I forgot to say something about the Civil War. One of the biggest battles to me was the Battle of Antietam. This gained control of the Mississippi, and if you gain control of the Mississippi, you gain control of trade. And if you gain control of trade, you just gain control of everything. So I just want you guys to know that that is one of the most biggest battles, and also the Battle of Gettysburg. People say that was the turning point of the war. But yeah, I'm sorry, I had to add something in. We don't have a lot of time left. Here you go.
We're actually out of time, but we'd like to thank our camera people, Angeline. We'd like to thank our script writer, Sophia, everything. But that's all we have time for today with Mr. Alshak. Thank you so much.